Working on a Kawasaki 1986 Vulcan 750 right out of the 80s. My neighbor wants it fixed up. He's going to give it to his son. He's learning how to ride. We're going to put some new tires on here. These Dunlops are from 1986, probably not safe for the road, even though they do hold air still. So we're going to start with the back wheel and move on to the front wheel, probably in another video. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things we have to remove to get this wheel off. This is a shaft-driven motorcycle, and it's actually got a differential on the left side, so we're going to have to address that when we're removing the wheel. And looking at the right side of the motorcycle, there's a couple of things here that need to be addressed. For one, it's a drum brake, so we're going to have to remove this adjuster nut so we can disengage that. This hub is going to come out with the wheel. We note that the rear shock is attached to a swing arm. That's not going to be an issue. It has nothing to do with the back wheel. We've got a spacer here between the hub. We've got an axle that's going to be coming out. This is going to have to be removed. There's no way that axle is going to get past that muffler. So those are the things we're going to have to address on this side of the bike. On the left side of the motorcycle, there's a couple of things. You can see the drive shaft configuration. There's also another muffler here. There is some relief between the castle nut on the rear axle, but I can't get a socket in there. I'd have to use a big open end wrench, which I don't want to do because at the end I'm going to wind up torquing that, and I don't have a situation where I can accurately torque it using an open end wrench. So I want to put my torque wrench in there with a good socket, make sure I got that tightened up the way to the factory specs. This shock is going to stay here. This hub is going to stay here along with the drive shaft. It's all going to be one assembly. The rear wheel is going to move to the right and it's going to be pulled out. This assembly is going to stay just like you see it. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this to give me some more room as well. Here's a view of the muffler heat shield and also the muffler clamp that clamps to the actual exhaust pipe. Those will have to be loosened, and then you can go ahead and slide the muffler out with the loosening of the top bolt, which goes under the passenger footrest on the right side. I've got this one broken loose already, so I can just do it real fast here and pull that out. There we go. This one's got its own little flathead washer affixed to it. There's a rubber grommet here that might come out. Just keep an eye on that. And this should just pull right out now. Same thing on the left side. I should have mentioned that the heat shield is actually affixed with a Phillips head. It looks like we got a 10 millimeter for the actual clamp for the exhaust and the muffler. There we go. Now we've got complete access to the axle. There's a cotter key here, a castle nut, a big flat washer, and we should be ready to go in just a flash. That kind of shows you about the rear brake. Just a spring, a little keeper here, a cam that's kind of like a nut cam so you can get your adjustment. Comes right off of here, and that's loose. And this is kind of interesting. So if you have one of these bikes, there's actually a brake pad calibrator here that tells you the proper range. You can see that needle. It's not a needle. That little flange that they put there, it's on a spring. The arm's on a spring. But it tells you the range. Usable range is like, it looks like it's about 1.5 inches. So if you're like this, you can't get any more adjustment on that pointer. Here he's got good, he's right in the middle. But if you can't get any more, it's an indicator that you need some new brake shoes. Oh, there we go. Nice. Nice. It's always good when that happens. What's on the back here is just a straight through bolt. I don't think there's anything else I need to worry about there. Oh, look, there we go. Brake's completely loose now. I think that's enough to pull it out. It didn't take too much, actually.
So swing over to the other side. I kind of actually grabbed it and pulled it out. There's our spacer here. Yeah, there was no anti-seize on here. Maybe it just wore off over the years. And I can't catch my fingernail in any grooves here on this axle. It's in pretty good shape. Then we get our rear spacer. It's going to just pop out. And I'll put that right back on here. So what I've done here is I've actually just pulled the rear wheel towards the right side of the motorcycle. And look at this. And there's enough, the drag link, there's enough room for everything. I should be able to just roll this out now. I'm gonna pop this off first. Let's take a look at these, by the way. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of meat left on those. Old school, look at that. I have to clean it up. Maybe grease. The areas to grease on these are where the cam is, where the shoes can expand on, and the ends of these springs here. They look pretty dry. I'll clean that up and address that later. Put that over here. A lot of brake dust in there. And let's get this out of here. There we are. I may have to move it up just a little more. There we go. There's the shaft drive gear there. Clean all that up. Here's the inside of it. Those splines have to match with the outside diameter of that, so when it goes back together again, I'll pay attention to that. There's a rubber damper inside here to absorb the friction and the torque, kept in with a big circlip. All that's going to stay. That tire can be replaced just like that. They shouldn't have to disturb any of it. The rear wheel is back with the new tire on it, so we're going to go ahead and install it today. All this stuff, nothing else had to come off, just like you see right here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this drag link. This bar fastens to the brake hub. It's the bar that keeps the brake hub from spinning when you apply your brakes. Really easy to do. When I removed the tire, I didn't need to take it off. I just kind of gently pulled it back, and it was enough relief to get the wheel out. But when I put the wheel in, I want to make sure everything's centered properly. So what I did is I set a wrench up here. If I can get this camera in here properly, you can see the crescent wrench is just kind of leaning up against the center stand there, and the other end is going around the bolt. That'll keep it from turning. This stuff has aluminum in it, and you'll find that out right away. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to keep that from binding with the elements, temperature changes, and other things that are associated with having a mechanical part within another mechanical part. And that's it. This thing's pretty much done. Just very light coating. Getting the rear wheel back in place on the drive side, notice the splines that are there on the drive. They're going to have to match up with those on the wheel. They're kind of close together, so once you get the wheel lifted into place, there's going to be some rotation, incremental rotation, so the splines will match up and fit, and then the wheel will slide onto the drive hub. And of course, that's the wheel side there. You can see the splines in this picture. This is a little tough to show, but once you've got the wheel up on your feet or your Just kind of a little Tupperware bucket here. You can see the splines. The whole key is being able to see what you're doing. Don't try to fit this thinking you know where it's going. You got to have light. You got to see the splines. You got to match them up exactly, and then this thing will pop right back into place. Okay, I'm just going to tap this gently here. I'll look through the other side, make sure I'm not disturbing anything. Everything looks good and lined up, so I'm going to continue. This is still loose, no problem here. Drag link's going to tie back up in there. There's the inside of the drag link there. You know, the manual, if you get one, or internet, or if you want to look at the parts for these, they call this something else. I've always called these a drag link. But there's actually two pieces of metal together. It goes in between it on this little tab on the swing arm. So make sure that you don't put it on one side or the other. It rides right in between those two. At this point, nothing is torqued. Everything's really loose, and I want to go around to make sure everything is to factory specs. In putting back this drag link here, the hex part of this bolt, there's actually a recessed cutaway on the back, so you want to make sure that you get that in there when you put this back on, so it doesn't ride on the top. You probably noticed because the bolt would be too short anyway, but see there, it won't turn. And it's completely sitting in that recessed area there. Fine threads. Okay, so this goes right into the arm here, the actuator. And then you've got the hole that comes out the other side. Real simple. You can see the step there. When this turns, it just kind of gradually pushes this in with every click. Self-tightening. It won't come loose because it's got the spring tension on it, so there's no lock washer mechanism or anything like that have to mess with. Okay. With every click you can see the arm pushing back in. And I'm not going to adjust this yet. I'll do that with the pedal. The indicator's way up here now. When we started, it was more in the middle. So it tells me that it's probably going to be somewhere around there when we're done. And 80 foot-pounds is what this my research shows on these. I have someone holding the other side for me this time. That axle is spinning freely. And there it is.